Hi guys, this is Shawn from Fritz Mardel. We want to welcome you to Reef at Palooza, New York. Thanks for coming and joining us. We are the platinum sponsors here. We love this show. We're expecting over 3,000 actual consumers to come to this show, so we can't wait to see you in person. We want to talk to you a little bit about some of our medications today, some of our salts, and our bacterias. All right, so there's a lot of confusion around medications, so I did want to kind of go over the different types for you. Generally get a bunch of questions on, how can I tell if it's a bacterial or fungal infection, and what do I dose if it's a parasite in a reef tank. So I just wanted to kind of go through them one by one. We have Clout, which is an antibiotic that's going to go after anchorworms, fish slice, any type of parasite that's actually on the fish. We have Myricin Oxy, which is an antifungal and oxygenator for your aquarium. It is a non-antibiotic, but it isn't reef safe. This is great for fungal infections. We have Myricin and Myricin 2. Myricin is actually erythromycin in its cleanest form. It's great for gram-positive bacteria. And then we have Myricin 2, which is good for both gram-positive and gram-negative. It's minocycline, and it's a very flexible form of tetracycline. We have Copper Safe, which it's a heavily chelated copper. It's the only copper that you can actually use a UV sterilizer with inside the aquarium. And we have Quick Cure, which is bases of formaldehyde and malachite green together. It's an anti-parasite. It will eradicate ick within 24 hours. And then we have Myricin Plus, which is trimethoprim and sulfamides. This is good for both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. The difference between Myricin Plus is it's inside of a biosphere to help keep concentration inside your aquarium. Another question, which actually stirs up a lot of debate in the aquarium industry, is we claim to have a reef-safe medication that actually works. And there's been so many medications in the reef and freshwater planet world that have made that claim and have not been effective. So whenever I come into a store or get online and say I have a reef-safe medication that works, I have about 10 people that hate me immediately. But I do want to tell you, draw you to Parashield and Bactershield and tell you why it works. Instead of just saying it works, go grab it. Parashield is actually manuka oil, neem oil, limonene, and capsaicin oil, and these oils have been known to be effective all around the world for different types of parasitic treatments, treated on plants. The only problem was as soon as you put them inside your aquarium, these oils alone would just dilute and would be very difficult to get to the fish. What makes this work inside of the aquarium is the fact that we patented a technology where we found a chitosan polymer, which is a shrimp shell polymer inside of aquaculture used as a binder. What we've done is impregnated that shrimp shell biopolymer with the oils, so that medication is carried to the fish because it has a negative charge and fish have a positive charge. Most gaseous bacteria are neutrally charged, so it's not going after those neutrally charged gaseous bacteria, therefore causing a cycle in your aquarium. Bactershield is very similar as well, just different active ingredients. So we have geranium, pine, limonene, I believe manuka is in there as well, rosemary. These are good for gram-positive, gram-negative bacterial infections and also fungal. These aren't quite as effective as our antibiotics that we spoke about earlier. I'm seeing about an 85% success rate inside the reef and planet aquarium. But the reason why these are great for the industry is because you have consumers all the time that cannot set up a quarantine tank. They've got a big reef tank with 100 pounds of rock. How are they going to catch a particular fish or a tang out of that aquarium without stressing out the whole entire system and the fish itself, which is mostly sick because of its lowered immune system. So stressing it around the aquarium might be the worst thing for it. So this is actually a medication that you can put inside the reef tank without worrying about it affecting your SPS, your monopores, macroalgae, zoanthids, brain corals. That would be the last thing I want to do, is have you upset with me because I gave you a medication that killed your coral. So I promise I wouldn't do that to you. This is effective. Again, not quite as effective as my antibiotics, so don't hate on me there, but it has got about an 85% success rate inside of our initial studies with some of our local dealers. We gave it to Dallas North Aquarium. Got to give a shout out to Kayla. She tested it in her systems for about 6 months and gave me a lot of data on how it was working on cryptocarrion ick and bacterial infections. And so again, it's an herbal. It's inside of a chitosan polymer. We're seeing a great success rate on it. But again, not quite as effective as the antibiotics, but with the antibiotics, you do have to take it and put it in a quarantine tank most times. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about bacteria. There's a lot of questions and a lot of controversy over that as well inside the aquarium industry. So I get to have some of the most controversial products in the industry, which is awesome for me when I go into a store. But I do have two different types of bacteria. I have heterotrophic bacteria, which is a bacillus-based bacteria, and I have nitrifying bacteria, which is an autotroph. Nitrifiers that we carry are Nitrobacter, Nitrosomonas, Nitrococcus. These bacteria are very different than a heterotroph. A nitrifier consumes ammonia and nitrite. A heterotroph consumes organic that's left over in the aquarium, like sludge, leftover fish waste, and leftover fish food. So the difference between the products is 460, which is our basic bacillus. That's going to break down undissolved organics in the aquarium. That's the heterotroph. We have Monster 460, which is a quadruple concentrate. We give it that Monster 460 name because we're trying to, basically target the, lionfish and puffers, the monster-sized triggers, things like that. They're going to create a lot more waste, so we need an extra highly concentrated bacillus bacteria for that. But what my favorite product is the actual nitrifier, and this allows a consumer to start an aquarium rather quickly or reduce ammonia very fast. So that's Fritz 9 and Turbo Start. My favorite is Turbo Start. I'll actually pull out some from the cold. We keep it cold. I'm here at the show, bringing it to people that were wanting to set up an aquarium. So I have to bring it in a cold pack like this. This is a cold bacteria that has a smell. It is nitrifier, autotrophic bacteria, Nitrosomonas, Nitrobacter. This will start your aquarium instantly. This will actually cause you to skip the cycle. You will not see the ammonia develop or the nitrite. This will allow you to put fish in right away, and you will have to put fish in right away to have this product work. This has to be temperature controlled, refrigerated, and it has only a 4-month shelf life since it's so concentrated. That's very different from other competitive nitrifier and bacteria on the market, which some of them work rather well, but they are not temperature controlled, so we don't feel like we're getting as good of a results with something that is temperature controlled from point A all the way to the consumer. And then we have our Fritz 9, which is not temperature controlled, but it's very diluted. You're seeing about 40-gallon treatments out of a 16-ounce bottle, and it has only a year shelf life. That is a pure nitrifier. It's not a cocktail of heterotrophs and autotrophs. It's just pure nitrifying bacteria, and you can put it in your aquarium with confidence, knowing that you can add fish that same day. Hi guys, we're going to talk about salt one more time. I know we talked about this with Richard and Orlando, but I did want to cover it again a lot. I'm still getting tons of questions. People ask me what makes my salt different than my competitors. And we think our competitors' salts are great. We're all making good salt. We just have a different way of doing it. We have different parameters. And so just to quickly go over the parameters, we have calcium at 420 to 440, magnesium in the high 1300s to low 1400s usually. And then we have alkalinity right between that sweet spot between 8 and 9. We feel like that's where most reefers are going these days. And so that's the difference between some of the other products. Some shoot for a high alkalinity between 10 and 12. We really don't feel like that's where we are gearing our products. We've read studies that show that it's a weaker skeleton growth with an ultra-low nutrient system. It's burning the tips of the SPS, so we're trying to stick between right in 8 and 9 range. Another thing that's different about our salt is where we source our raw materials. We work with some of the largest public aquarium and aquaculture facilities, professional aquatic facilities in the world that really geared us to going for a low trace metal salt. A lot of our competing salts are going for having lots of trace metals in the salt, and we just feel like with that method you can't contain the amount of trace metals that are in there through water changes over time. So those end up building up over time and becoming higher than like the 0.004 concentration that you're wanting. And 3-4 years from now, as you're doing water changes, because it continuously replenishes those trace metals, you're at something like 0.012 instead of 0.004. Which is a lot more toxic to your system and starts to cause, unwanted algae and some people would say disease in fish. But so we're going with a low trace metal salt. We've sourced it from all over the world. When we worked with one of the largest aquariums in the country, we actually gave them 3 to 4 sodium chloride samples from different parts of the world. We gave them 3 to 4 magnesium chloride, magnesium sulfate, bicarbonates, carbonates, and calcium samples. so that we could actually use mass spectrophotometers to test, what is the actual cleanest raw material that we can use. So that's how we made up our base mix. Then we talk to you, the reefers, to bring the parameters to where you want it inside your reef tank. So our parameters are different. Our raw materials we feel like are very, very clean, sourced from all over the world. And then we're also doing much different QC than some of our competitors. We're actually doing a 1,000 pound batch versus a 4,000 pound batch, which we feel like makes a big difference because salt is a dry powder. And if you're gonna, even going back into the trace metal content, if you're gonna try to add something manually that has a 0.004 content in it, how are you gonna ensure in even a 1,000 pound batch, which is much smaller than a 4,000 pound batch, that it's blended appropriately and doesn't end up a higher concentration in one bucket? So we do a 1,000 pound batch versus a 4,000 pound batch. We test the first and 10th boxes of that batch, and we keep that lot, that 1,000 pound lot, in our lab, a retained sample for 3 years in case we ever need to go back and study this particular salt. So that's what I feel like is the biggest difference in our product, is the consistency and making sure that if it actually had a problem with the raw material, we would catch it before it leaves our facility and becomes your property. Again, this is Shawn Hale from Fritz Mardel. We want to thank you for coming to Reef at Palooza, New York. We think it's a great show. We want to give a shout out to Lou and Vic for Worldwide Coral for throwing this show. This is an awesome event. It's really cool to see everybody get together and have a good time, especially after the show. We all kind of hang out and have a meal and a few beers together. So thank you for coming. Thank you for tuning in. We know that not all of you can make it this year, but try to come and catch us in Orlando. You can catch us in California and catch us in New York next year if you didn't make it out this year.